All right, welcome to another installment of Be Your Own Boss. I'm your host, David Gambill, where we discuss a person's life and career and what got them to this point. Quickly, before we get to the interview, hey, if you're getting a value from this video, go ahead and hit the like button, and really helps me help more people find this content. And if you're interested in hearing more people's experience of becoming their own boss, be sure to subscribe and tap the bell. You won't miss what's coming next. Our guest today is Judd Borikove of Rev Symphony. Greetings and welcome, Judd. Let's get started by just trying to figure out who you are and give us some background.
Sure. My name's Judd Borikove. Currently run a company called Rev Symphony. We're a go-to-market advisory and consultancy. I have a couple other companies as well. One's an AI company. One is a partnership opportunity with big ecosystems and a couple other things that I get my hands into. But thank you so much for having me. Really excited to dig in and get to tell the story.
Well, that's good. So how did you start in the business? What got you, kind of those stepping stones?
So early on, I was always in go-to-market. My dad was a consummate salesman. He really kind of got me into it in the way that he worked for the big telcos back in the day and closed these big, like multi-billion-dollar deals. So watching him, I was like, this is really cool. He traveled a lot. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll get into sales. And so I started doing that, worked with some consultancies and some different things, and realized that I kind of wanted to do my own thing. I just didn't like having bosses that didn't understand why I was doing what I was doing, even though I was having success. So I did what a lot of people tell you to do, which was, find your passion and do that. And I was a collegiate wrestler. I was a CrossFit competitor. And I've been into fitness since I was 13 years old, still work out on a regular basis. And so I thought, hey, why don't I do that? And so I opened gyms. I started a wellness consultancy to help people who basically had the passion, but didn't have the business expertise to kind of build the business and help them to actually develop them. I did that for about 10 years and then sold that company. But that's how I got in. And what I learned from it was don't do what your passion is, because it quickly becomes not your passion when it becomes a job. So since that time, I've done a lot, and I've done a lot through my career because I just take that stance of like, I want to see what's out there to see what I enjoy doing. And it doesn't have to be enjoy from the passion perspective, but at least enjoy like the day to day and the types of things I do. And I came to find that I'm a problem solver. I like working on hard problems. I like figuring out how to connect the dots. And that's taken me through doing HR consulting, being a developer, running a logistics firm, running a logistics consultancy, doing startup consulting, starting some startups myself. And so I've built some companies and sold some, flubbed some, but at least I'm enjoying the ride.
Gotcha. I mean, when you're a wrestler, you mentioned helping folks determine their wellness, or were you actually helping them build a business?
So both. So we had two sides of the business. One was actually doing fitness. So I trained professional athletes, Navy SEAL commanders, high level executives for years. And they, in conversations with these people, you kind of realized like they would go to other places, and these people who had started businesses because of their passion just didn't know how to run the business. They didn't know how to grow the business. They didn't know how to get their brand out there. And it got me thinking that, well, that's what I did before I got here, and that's what's helped me to be successful. So maybe I can help them. And that turned into a consultancy that basically said, hey, you've got passion. We've got know-how. Let us help you. And it's kind of like, we'll call it like that operator model. So if you think almost like a semi VC model where we come in, we could take equity or pay and help them grow the business. We did that for a while.
Right. So you were very almost like probably pseudo business coach, or what?
A little bit of that. We had systems and processes that we'd implement. We'd help them triage problems and break things down. We could send people in who would be, these days they're called fractionals. Back then it wasn't. It was just a consultant. But, come in and really help them understand what was going on in their business and what were the right levers to pull and the things to stay with.
Well, what was kind of you have any like successes out of that kind of maybe turned on your direction from the gym, or was it, that became more of your passion to help folks, or do you think that was, or was there something there that said, "Oh, the gym's not my passion anymore"? What killed it for you? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, like with all customers, customers want what they want, even if they need something different. So I walked in thinking, hey, I'm going to give them what's going to give them the result. So I had years of experience from, every kind of certification to, you name it. And I was like, great, let's use this to actually help people be healthier, look the way they want, feel the way they want. Over time, quickly started to realize that it doesn't matter if you give them what works. They want what makes them feel a certain way or what they think they want. And it kind of, it kind of was a disenchanting moment where I was like, so it doesn't matter if you give them the right thing. You have to give them the thing they want and earn the right to give them what they need. And just became a very different model that I just didn't want to do anymore in the wellness space. But I mean, if you think about it, it really prepared me for how the rest of the business world is.
Right.
To this day, no matter what the product is or the service is, people want what they want. And you've got to give them some of what they want and earn that right to give them what they need.
Well,
So
yeah, well, I think I've always said it. Show them an opportunity, but you can't. It's always you can't lead them to the opportunity, right? You can show them all the opportunities you want. I mean, I go through, I don't know, several different opportunities in a day and a week, but you only have one person. You don't have yourself, and you got to select. And it's not necessarily. It's hard to say that you have a. I mean, people have wants, but they also have needs, and it's kind of hard to distinguish that because are they my my thinking is always, are they ready for it? Are they ready for what they want? Right? I've had coaches that say they're successful. You probably counted this. He says, "Well, I want what you want." Well, you didn't do all the things I did to get here. You can't just like snap your fingers and say, "Hey, I'm an instant success." Doesn't work that way.
that brings up that whole, you see people on the internet who are like came out of nowhere and then you get to know them and you're like, well, that was 12 years of nowhere, right?
Exactly. Well, I mean, and have you come across that people want that? I mean, it's kind of an instant success that people want the microwave. When I was growing up, the microwave generation, everybody wants it in 30 seconds or less. I mean, now at today's like society and social media is, 30, I don't know, but 20 seconds or 10 seconds or something like that. They can scroll through things.
We got 14 seconds of attention. Now we're down to 7.
Or is it? I haven't heard the latest, so it's kind of like it's always reducing. Like, how can you even fathom 7 seconds?
That I think is one of the challenges that, we work on now. And if you think about it, all the channels that used to work to get our message out, they come and go. I don't ever say anything's dead. I'm not a believer in things die. I think they just resurface. So for example, direct mail, so, faded out years ago. People are using it again and having really good results because nobody else is. Now we're, outbound calling is down, email is down, and we're looking for new opportunities. We do a lot of work in partnership and finding that is working really well right now. So there's definitely opportunity, but it takes a lot of watching the market, testing the market, talking to people, and consistently understanding how the landscape shifts to stay ahead of it. And I think that's where really good operators get that. It's not I have a playbook that I run everywhere I go. It's we're going to get in here. We're going to start with a framework and then we're going to see how we adjust. Just like a recipe, right? You make it the same way once and then you say, well, here are the things I want to add or change about it. And that it's the same kind of model.
Well, you mentioned your dad having been kind of in the old sales perspective, which for the most part doesn't work anymore. I mean, there's some elements of there when you're. I mean, I was just reading a book about the after trust, the pre trust or the post trust era, and how do you? I mean, it's how do you gain that trust? I know communication and diligence and just maintaining that communication is key. But what's your regimen? What's your consistency that you do for that?
Well, trust is one of those things that it takes time, but there's no like instant trust. It doesn't matter how good your brand is. There's even so take like some of the biggest brands, Apple, Google. There's still certain things we go, I'm not sure, and that's just I think the human nature. So for me, it's consistency. Honestly, it's you get somebody's attention and you don't waste it. You don't waste their time. You do what you say you're going to do. I mean, it's interesting. We've gotten to a place where general business acumen has become something that actually makes you stand out. But
Yeah.
it's true. And, when it comes to being able to get in front of people, this is where like people need to start finding creative ways to do it. Like, what did we know after the pandemic? Everybody had been locked up for a really long time. They're dying to get out and do something. So my old company, we ran a play where it was event specific. It was small micro events with very highly targeted people only, invite only, and we crushed. And within 2 years, it was at a $5 million run rate. So, it's just being thoughtful in and looking at the environment
Yeah.
and giving people what they need and want together. That's great product development.
Do you feel like, and it sounds like you've done that, where you almost have to be dynamic in your approach, not necessarily in the even in the communication, right? It's kind of like you mentioned it. It's micro, it's pinpoint, it's what worked. I don't know what the cycle is anymore. If it's 6 months, 3 months, 2 weeks.
AI is speeding everything up as it's funny too. And you knew we had to say AI at least like 20 times in the conversation. Um, I always tell people that AI is just like when we had the internet, right? When the
Yeah.
internet blew
Yeah.
up and everything got really big in the 2000, right around that time, it was everything expedited exponentially. Then everything died and then it came back even better. And I think we're going through that again. But the interesting part was back then, the speed that felt fast is slow now. And what they're pushing to because of and with AI is light years beyond. I think we've got to just be careful that we don't let this idea of speed take away the human component of business.
Well, yeah, you hit on a good point. When do we slow it down? I mean, how do we slow it down before we, you know, I don't know, burn out? I don't know if the word burnout is really a good description of it, but it's kind of, people use that because it's kind of like there's a certain percentage of the population that just doesn't get it, right? And then you have to talk to them because you have to talk to them on their level. And so, how do you, all the different approaches you've taken, do you see and this goes back to the time periods of how we're going to get out of the cycle? I mean, I guess
It's
I'm coming to grips with that. So,
It's ugly right now. And I don't know if we get out of the cycle. I think human nature is to push. And everybody thinks that if you move faster, you have a strategic advantage.
right.
And to some extent, that's accurate. But the other piece is now we're moving for moving's sake, speed for speed's sake,
Yeah.
right? It's, I think one of the things that's hurt us as from a business perspective is when the startup push really started happening like at an exponential rate. The idea was break things fast and often, run. But as things scale, you can't do that because breaking things has a much higher cost associated. And the amount of time it takes for reworks and doing things it doesn't work the same. Can you do that early? Sure. But once you pass like 10, $15 million in revenue, things start to change. When you hit 50 million in revenue, the whole world is different because one mistake can kill the whole company. And so you've got to be very thoughtful. So slowing down to speed up is a concept that I'm hoping more people start to realize is going to benefit them. Take the time to make the right decision so you don't have to make multiple decisions because ultimately that's going to take longer anyway. And that might be it. But I mean, the funny part is when you said burnout, it is very real to the point of like, I know people who have had adrenal shutdown. And that just means that literally you can't really sleep, but you can't function. Your whole body is out of whack.
I had got younger. When I was younger, I'd work overtime a lot as an engineer to get a project done. But I know if I hit that, I don't know, 72 hours in like 3 days, or 4 days or whatever it was, I'm out for 3 days. That was how, I mean, at a 25-year-old was
That's
my limit. And so I had to throttle back and be more conscious and be more efficient with, I can't just be willy nilly on what I was doing. I had to be focused on the specifics and not the things that really didn't matter, really didn't impact the bottom line, which is trying to get was trying to get a product out or trying to get a widget out, and in the time frame they needed it for production, and not be, take the time, right? If it takes, if the part's not needed for 6 months, then I won't start working until the fifth month or fourth month, depending on how long it takes to do it. And so I got into a lot of scheduling for that and understanding, when is it necessary? It was just in time, right? From a manufacturing perspective, that's was a catchphrase, oh, 20 years ago.
We still use it.
I know they still use it, but it's kind of like, I don't know if it's dated or not. I don't know what the new terms, Kanbans and all these other stuff when I talk to the shop floor, and just how they shadowing the parts to make sure if they don't have all the parts for that particular operation or whatever. And when but I see all this social media, the influencers, and are we is my biggest thing is always, is the big OEMs not necessarily dead? Are they morphing into smaller, nimble, not the hundreds of thousands of folks working for them? Maybe it's only maybe 1,000 or 2,000. Can they do this same backlog or same workload as a 10,000 or 20,000 or 100,000 folks? And can we sustain that for any length of time?
Interesting you say that. And when you said it, the first thing that jumped to my mind is, I'm sure everybody remembers when Elon Musk bought Twitter with tens of thousands of employees, and he literally laid off a whole bunch and let the company run as it is, and it's done fine. So can it? 100%. We tend to bloat companies. We hire just because we think bodies will solve problems without solving the problem. So I think that most companies have a lot of bloat. That being the case, there's still a lot of function that we need people. And there's going to come a time where I think the right companies are going to figure out how to optimize operations so that we do only need 1,000-person company versus 100,000-person company. We're starting to get there. We're starting to see those companies where they're using so much AI. It's, they're like $1 million per head, run rate, which is, of revenue per employee. And that's unheard of, So things are changing fast. I'm sure we're going to get there. AI is going to speed us up, but hopefully slow us down as well. And I don't think AI is what people think it is yet. Anyone who does it consistently in a true business manner probably realizes that, but it's coming. I think people who are shunning it at this point, they're going to be not in a very good place at some point in the next, let's call it 2 to 5 years. But there's plenty of time to get involved with it and utilize it. And I mean, I think that's going to help people's journey more than anything else, because the one thing it does well right now is things you don't understand or don't know about, it can help you, right? And it can help you get to a level of at least base understanding where you can make a decision. So even to this day, when I look at opportunities, I'll run it through my own mental model. I'll run it through AI models just to get a better and different perspective on what am I missing,
Yeah, I'm doing that too. It's almost like a second brain, and maybe it's just, I wouldn't say reinforcing it, but maybe it's always the man in the mirror type of thing, where it's saying it's so obvious, gives you a second, I wouldn't say certification, but a second knowing that you're making the right choice, rather than just making one that's based solely on your, you say gut, but your gut check, and it's kind of like, well, maybe, maybe if that's, but hopefully it doesn't shortchange the risk taking that a lot of folks tend to rely on, because a lot of times that's based on, based on persistence, but also based on just the dynamics that are already happening with society. But if the dynamics is not there, the idea doesn't necessarily catch on, right? That's the old inventor's dilemma. We started with the need or the want. Does it really fill that niche, right? I've heard the examples about Apple and the iPhone. Nobody said that they never wanted it, but they needed it. If we just talked to folks about before iPhone came out, they were satisfied with the BlackBerry.
I mean, think
But
about the iPod. Even
nobody wanted it. But yet,
who knew you needed 1,000, songs in your pocket, right? Like nobody thought about it, and then all the models shift and you start going, I mean, the one thing I do realize, and if you think about it, is businesses are built to make things easier for people, right?
right.
We're moving to a place where it's almost too easy.
Well, community, and I was actually reading something where it was two things. You're helping people to A, be financially successful, money, and B, what you just said, make it life easier for them. If you keep making their life easier, how in the world are you going to make the money for it? Right? I mean, that's the first thing that's starting to crop up is if we start to make everything so easy, have robots do stuff for us, have automated manufacturing. What is I mean, I could think of things that people could do, such as support the robots because they're not well, right now they're not going to be able to repair themselves, but maybe we have robots that repair themselves. I don't know.
Check out Boston Dynamics.
Yeah, yeah, I've been keeping up with them too. It's feasible, but then again, like then everybody's going to say, well, what everybody goes back to, well, what do we educate kids for? What is the future supposed to look like? Because we can't define what the future is if everything's automated.
Well, I think the thing that, if you want to go the education route for a hot second, I think the biggest thing that they learn is history, and history will repeat itself whether we like it or not. And it might be in a different format, but it will always do it because as human nature goes, that will not change. So that's where I think the education's best. Obviously, people who need hyper specialized skill sets can learn those. I think we're going to see a lot of AI prompting being big, AI model development. I think that developers, which was the hottest thing in the world, are going to become not as needed. You'll get high end engineers that will run AI development shops, right? That understand all of the components and what makes the most sense. So there's going to be a big shift. What it totally looks like, I don't think
I
anybody,
don't think it is.
but
How do you prepare the next generation for that? Right? That's kind of like you're fixing it. Well, actually, are you replacing the engine? And you're trying to figure out, well, what type of mechanic do I need for for this future engine that I don't know what it's looking like? I mean, is it coding? Is it coding? Is it biological? I mean, you could have a robot that's a biological at a certain point.
well, yeah. And we know that, some of the technology they're working on is, biological.
Mechanical, biological, mechanical.
Right. That basically like chips that can basically hold more compute than every bit of compute we have on the planet right now, like things like that are made in, super cold chambers that we can't even imagine. There's so many cool things going on, but I think the reality is it's going to take the same form or the same overarching shape eventually. It's just more how do we make what we're now doing easier and they evolve to the next level. But it's a dangerous game I think we're playing, honestly. I will say though, this is the right time once again that if you're interested in, if you've ever had the thought of I want to do my own thing, this is the time. I just remember, when .com hit, it made a ton of money for a lot of people who decided let's just try it. So this is the timing because there's a lot of investment dollars out there. There's a lot of appetite and ability to stand up a company in a matter of days versus years. I mean, the speed at which you can get a company off the ground or product off the ground is off the charts.
Right. I really think there's a shakeup with software firms as well. I mean, AI and my 2 cents on vibe coding is that I can create a very small, minute app that can do that a $10,000 or $100,000 software package can do for me rather easily. Granted, it's not going to have all the bells and whistles, but at least I've asked for exactly what I wanted from it, and it'll do exactly what I want it to do. Right. And I can modify it to every stage of my business and not have to put in the high dollar amounts. Now, I expect that some of this will start to creep up in price eventually. It's just, you know, the, it's the value proposition. The more people use it for those specific tasks, the often it's going to cost more. which means more energy, more, you're hearing about the memory and the GPU issues about being able to keep up with the demand, which is more material, putting
All of that
stuff
will
in,
eventually
yeah.
come down in price, but I think utilization will go up. So we're not going to minimize much, and we're just going to become more reliant. That's the scariest part. Is, I mean, if you think back, and most people probably don't even remember this, but before cell phones, I mean, think about it. We can't do without a cell
Oh,
phone.
with the cord. Yeah. Hello with the cord. Yeah. Right. You
You go
can't
out
get
and
away from the
hey,
wall.
your parents couldn't find you for like the whole day until you come home. Now it's like, where are you? It's
Oh, no. You look on your phone, you got the app, right? That shows exactly where they're at. If they're carrying their phone with them, what they're supposed to, or they have the tag, the little transmitter tag, then you can point them where they're at. I mean, it's the helicopter parents, the type of thing. But I mean, in your current things you're doing now, are you seeing some of that implementation, or are you evolving with it? I mean, what's your next ventures going to look like with all this going on?
there's always going to be something with AI at this point. There just kind of has to be. I mean, in all of my businesses, we use it in different ways. The one thing though that I will caution people when it comes to AI is this is not a one prompt and done ever. You have to use it as if you're working with, like, think of like an editor, right? You're giving them something and you're making edits and you're changing it and you're evolving it, and you use it as almost a partner, not as what will do the work for me. That's a very different thing, right? Because ultimately you're still building and developing and doing the work, but now you can do it at a speed which you couldn't before, right? Certain tasks, the idea of just building AI into everything, I don't think makes sense yet. I think too many people have jumped to, but we need it in some capacity. Well, you've just, doubled the price of your software, and you may not be able to actually make that back up. And now you're just using it as a kind of a retention tool that they don't go somewhere else where AI already is. So there's a lot of change coming. I do think you need to be thinking about how to utilize AI in almost all of your business, no matter what business you're in, no matter what segment. I don't care if you're industrial, high tech, legit, whatever. There should be a way that you're already trying to utilize it so that you're getting comfortable with how it works, the idea of it, so that when it really does hit that next level, you're already a part of it and not trying to catch up.
Is it you think that's going to be disparaging between the people that have, I wouldn't say the have and have nots, but to have AI and not have AI,
So here's the easiest way to think about it. What's happening to newspapers?
the digital and kind of being meshed in with everything else in social media.
And even with digital, they're starting to disappear because there's too many other things that can do what they do. Well, AI is going to be that to so many things that if you think that you're going to be able to do your business without it, at some point you're going to be wake up one morning and realize you're out of business. And it's not saying it as like be scared, but it's be realistic that
Right.
the internet changed the world. AI is in the process of changing the world. And if we don't realize that and take advantage of it while we can, we're going to be those have nots, as you mentioned, right? Because the haves are going to be millionaires. They're making their money. They're going to put products out there. And the great thing about trying to start something now is you don't even have to be successful to make money. People are
Yeah, you
throwing
keep
money at
people
these.
falling, crash and fell. It's fast. There'll be the rapid. Well, I was about to say about the videos, the images and stuff like that are kind of trashy. People just throw them out there like that's supposed to be their communication to society, which to me is kind of self-serving to a certain extent because it really doesn't do anybody any good. Now you're kind of like, is this real? I mean, I'm starting to do that on YouTube. I'm starting to think, is this a real picture? Is this a real video?
LinkedIn. Wait, is that AI? Oh, that can't be real. And that's like half the conversation.
Yeah,
And you're going, there's a whole business message up here.
right. Well, I have some of that. What is that? Human or AI generated? I forget what those human detection.
Mhm.
And you wouldn't be a bit surprised. I mean, I kind of do it myself, but kind of go through the LinkedIn page posts and stuff. There's still a few that are that says AI, human generated, and it's the hybrid AI, which is kind of human hybrid. combined. There's a lot that says just AI detected. I mean, this is totally AI, which kind of goes into you. This is just something they're just, I wouldn't say garbage, but it is kind of, this is not human. So am I to trust it? This goes back to the trust issue. Is this really a representation of the person presenting this?
The answer is always yes, because if they're willing to use it, then there's some type
There's
of
got to be something that prompted it to do that. But if they misrepresent themselves, they can easily prompt it and misrepresent them, which they could have done anyway if they're human, right? If they want to misrepresent themselves, they can do that anyway. They just
I mean, there's kind of the whole backlash. I think the initial was people were using it for job interviews, getting jobs, and then the people found out they really had no qualifications, but they interviewed so well and could answer the questions due to AI. But people using AI for test taking, other purposes like that. It's kind of, you know, there's a point where we're going to all have to come together and say what's acceptable. There's very little governance. I think they need a lot more governance around the development of AI so that it doesn't get out of control and do the things that we're afraid it's going to do. I hope that's coming, but also governance on how people are utilizing it. And that's going to be, I think
that's going to be the corporations, right? I mean, they're going to have to push that, and we can't tackle the dragon because we're building the dragon because we want the money from it, and we don't know how to control it once it's out of the cage.
I don't think the corporations are going to do governance.
No, I say they're not. They're going to cry uncle because we want to make the money, but governments, or society in general, let's not even say government, just society in general, is going to have to push back and saying enough is enough, guys. You're throwing this stuff out here like I'm supposed to utilize it or use it, or is this just entertainment, or is this actually useful to somebody for whatever purpose it's supposed to be?
I think the big thing here is just don't be afraid of it. Learn about it so that at least you have guardrails. You understand good use and bad use. You understand what it's best for and what it's not, what to trust and what to not. And it's kind of like any business, right? You're going to learn, you're going to get some bumps and bruises along the way, but generally you come out the other side much better.
Right. I think that goes back to, I always think of trying to do something different just so I myself can be better. Because if I stick in my, same thing every day in, day out, I feel, less fulfilling. I feel lack of purpose. If it's not for something, then what is it for? And if AI is self-serving and not serving to, to you or to whoever I come in contact with, if it doesn't serve them, then what is it for? I don't know if that's the sentiment that you have, and you're going into your next projects, or if that's
a bit of that for sure. There's so many ways you can use anything. At worst case, people at this point should use AI to educate themselves on AI. It's the easiest, simplest way. It can tell you the reality of it. It generally, the scary part that we've still got is there are plenty of times where you will catch it in a direct lie. And if that's the case, would you really want to plug something like that into a system that you really have no control over then? Because that AI is coming from an outside source that you have zero control over. And I've just never been a huge fan of outsourcing too many aspects of your business,
right.
Things I'm comfortable with. If we're in a partnership and you have to do your part, I have to do mine. Okay. We do our best to fulfill that. But something I have zero control over, zero input. The only thing I can do is either turn it off or turn it on. That gives me pause, especially when it's in a product that we're trying to build specifically for our customers.
I mean, I equate it to like a pilot. I know there's a big fight between automation not having a pilot in the loop, and I think everybody's settled that. I want a human in the loop because the AI is not smart enough to take every situation that could possibly happen in an airplane. I mean, it does well for cars for some reasons, but it does have limitations. You still need that human element because it's not perfect. We can think out of the box rather quickly.
We'll say though, the Waymos in Atlanta here, They're
Yeah.
everywhere. To my knowledge, we've had no accidents, no issues here, which is saying a lot considering how many accidents humans are having.
Yes.
So the funny part is we look at it from a very different perspective. If there's a mistake that an AI made, it's the end of the world. But if a human makes it, they're okay to make a ton. So you do have to kind of take that step back and look at it from a volume perspective. Like, how many mistakes are we actually seeing? Is it like 1 in 1 billion? Is
Well,
it
that'd be
million?
interesting. Have you taken one yet?
I have not. I have not. Only because I don't Uber a ton. I like riding motorcycles, and I try to ride wherever I can. But I'm not against it. I do still remember the first time I drove a Tesla though, and turned on the self driving, and it was the freakiest experience I'd had because we're on a highway, and I'm just like, oh my god, we're gonna die. And I was like, oh, it worked. We're good.
I have a few friends that do it, and the latest, it was like a year ago, the when they did the new body style for the Y, he got an upgrade, and the new software, which was based on the what they he call it, the visual model, where it was doing visuals, not trying to go through a listing of different scenarios. So it was like, okay, in this situation, this car did this, and so it would be less hesitant to do things. And it was so smooth. My one guy was telling, he drove like all the way to the airport. He never touched the wheel. It was so like not hesitant, especially when getting on the highway. They would floor it, right? Just like a human would. It was almost mimicking what a human would do in certain situations. He said it was kind of eerie to him. It felt like it was a human behind the wheel. And I've been in some of those cars, and it felt kind of more logical because it really was hesitating, and you really had to step in and put on the gas or put on the brake depending on what it was trying to do. Um, but I think they're getting that. EVs are kind of our aviation's kind of a little different because you got that third thing that is called gravity that's going to really kick in when
They're
things
gonna
go
figure
wrong.
They're gonna figure it out. Everybody said you couldn't do with cars. They did with cars. We've got long haul trucks. We've got machines that do sewing and everything else under the sun. They'll figure it out. It's only a matter of time. Eventually, you'll send unmanned into space, and it'll all be completely autonomous. But we're not there yet.
We're
And I
not
think
we're not the one, but it's rapid. I mean,
it's
if I look back 6 months ago,
totally different.
some of the models were pretty. I'm going to say,
Basic.
yeah, and now 6 months later, it's getting better. I mean, incrementally, huh?
They're basic plus. No, evolution is very quick in AI because there's so much data that it's processing. Of course it's going to evolve, but this is the right time to jump it. I think, coming on the show, the one thing, if I can say anything, is this is the time to be your own boss.
Exactly.
If you're thinking about it, if you're curious, start as a side gig, but see if it's what you like, because everybody says, go start your own business. It's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody. If you don't try, you don't know if it's good for you or not. I mean, it's a learning experience, and it's not for everybody, but you got to dip your toe in. Okay. Thanks, Judd. I appreciate your time. And with everybody else, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.